Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Well, it's going to be afternoon when you guys get a chance to watch this, but welcome to a brand new season of On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show. I'm Chris Miller. I am the owner of Off the Rails Media and a part of the Coach's Box Call It Like We See It podcast. And, of course, I am joined, as always, by the man, the myth, the legend.
Oh, boy.
Jim Powers. Jim.
It begins.
It begins, man. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's been a great summer. It's time to get going. I mean, the kids have been working hard all summer, with 7-on-7s and summer camps and all that. It's now time to, let's get going with this. And last year was such an unbelievable season. And depending upon how things go this year, we could be in store for another unbelievable year this year, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Great to be here. You guys are up in my neck of the woods
finally, right?
For this. Yeah, finally. We've been talking about it all summer. I want to thank our great friends Rachel, Jeff, Aaron, and the whole crew here at the 09 Pub in South City on Hampton. If you're up here, make sure you stop by and have a beverage or two or kind of things like that. So, but right. Also joining us tonight is our good friend from the Coach's Box, Mr. Riley Blair. Riley, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Appreciate the invite and love to be up here in South City. Love this area. Like to get up here every once in a while and hang out with you and all the friends that are up in this direction. So I'm looking forward to tonight's show. I mean, I watch it every week last year, but was never been able to be on it, but I'm looking forward to maybe making some appearances on this show more periodically, I guess.
You just got to get on the Zoom call.
Yeah,
we usually do this on Zoom.
Yeah, we normally Zoom Wednesday afternoons.
Okay. So we decided the first episode here we're gonna do it live here at the
have
09.
A little bit of fun.
Yeah, get together and
Mark Langhauser in the house so we can abuse him for a little bit.
Hey, maybe we should bring him on here and have him talk. Okay, maybe not so much, right?
Mike Nolan, maybe.
Probably not. No. Mike's too shy.
He is.
He's kind of shy.
He is kind of shy, just a little bit.
Hey,
just a little bit.
He did get one call right.
Yes, he did. If he got one call,
he got
correct
one call
in his
right
career,
for sure.
It was the district that you won a few years back.
That's right. They waved that basket off, and that was right. It was the right call. And after reviewing the play, it was the correct call. So he always has that. It's like, listen, I can argue with you, but at least you got that one.
Yes, that's right. We could argue with him all the time, but he got the big one right. So.
Absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. But no, it's great to have you guys up here, and we're going to have a lot of fun during football and basketball season, breaking down games, talking about what's going on in the local scene, and it's going to be a fun year. I mean, I'm really excited for what we are about to see starting Friday night, even though Mother Nature hates everybody right now and we're in the ring of hell, so to say.
Can someone tell God to turn off the oven? The biscuits are done.
Gosh, I mean, the cookies are finished.
Oh, my goodness. It is terrible.
These coaches and ADs have just been out of their minds crazy all week,
and
Riley.
I think you're saying that just because
I am one of them. I am one of them.
Well, you're trying to schedule practices and then trying to figure out games this weekend. And
what's the wet bulb say?
Yeah.
I stood outside the other day with my little wet bulb thing. I was out there for 10 minutes. I was drenched.
Yeah. Jim needed a shower.
I needed a shower after that, absolutely. Felt like it was my 6 o'clock workout at the edge down the street with my trainer after that.
Bring 4 sets of clothing. Three of them for when I go and I check the weather outside to see how hot it is for practice. So, yeah, it's terrible. I'll tell you, as much as I feel sorry for you guys, I feel sorry for the players.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm telling you right now, I would not want to be a softball player. Yes, Kevin, I said that. Or a football player. Tennis is, I mean, oh my gosh, tennis with
soccer,
that, with the court.
What? I don't.
Okay.
I apologize.
At least,
Sorry.
hey, if you're playing on the grass soccer field, it's not as bad as being on a tennis court.
Yeah, oh, no.
Tennis
Without
court,
a
it's
doubt.
just melting and the heat's rising. Yeah.
Scorching.
Absolutely.
That's true.
So, Jim, I mean, getting into the show here a little bit with football coming up. I mean, it's going to be hot, but I agree with you. I think we are shaping up for some really good games, for some really good matchups on the schedule. And I mean, football is going to look a little different, but we do have the same powerhouse schools that have some good programs and players coming back. So, what can you tell us about some of the new things we're going to see this season?
Well, I think the first new thing that we're going to see is a little bit of a different feel on the coverage this year. And first off, once again, and I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, the bottom line is, Dan McLaughlin, good friend of mine, he gave me an opportunity to have a lot of fun and do high school coverage on his website, Scoops with Danny Mac. Real good friend of mine, Dave Green, who I worked with at 590 back in the old days when the Caravan was in its, baby stages, so to say. He gave me a call and was like, hey, it's time. Let's do something high school. That's just high school. And so that's where prepsportsstl.com came to be. And we're excited. The website came out early last week, and it's been tremendous. And it's great that we have Ben Vessa, who does such an unbelievable job covering field hockey, soccer, and some of the other great sports, lacrosse. He's on board with us. Dave Wilhelm, who covers the Illinois side like no other, is on board with us. And we're going to be adding some other people here over the next couple weeks. And so you're going to see a lot of the same features. You'll actually see this show also on that website. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But we're gonna cover high school sports as best as we can. There's a big need for it, and the kids deserve it. And that's the bottom line. The kids, the coaches, they work hard, so we got to get the word out about them. So I'm excited about the launch of prepsportsstl.com, and a lot of great stuff coming down the line. But let's talk a little bit about this season. And I'm telling you guys, you got the normals, okay? You got the CBCs of the world. You got the Howes of the world. You've got Cardinal Ritter, who's going to be loaded again this year. You got a Valley Catholic team. Hillsborough is going to be a little bit of a different look this year. But, the bottom line is going to be you've got a lot of kids that we saw graduate last year, but you've also got a lot of kids, and Riley, you've seen this, a lot of kids that got a lot of playing time that's going to step into some big shoes and really do some unbelievable things across the board with all those teams.
Well, that the talent pool is just keeps getting bigger and bigger as you go, and I think these younger classmen that maybe didn't get a lot of touches last year or opportunities, you're going to see some bright talent out there coming out front on Friday night, starting on Friday night, and I think that's going to be the thing to watch is some of these younger players that maybe we didn't get a chance to see last year kind of come out right from the gate and put it on the field,
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think, too, one of the big changes, and we'll see this on Friday. Now, once again, Friday morning, 7 a.m. I know. It's district day. That's when we will see all of the districts come out for all the fall sports, except for cross country. Cross country will be next Friday. But one of the big changes that Misha has made was Class 6 will go from 32 teams up to 42 teams. That makes it extremely interesting because now, Hal, you're defending Class 5 state champs. They're on the bubble. Are they going to move up to 6 or are they going to stay in 5?
I mean, that depends on where the numbers fall.
It depends on where the number falls. Exactly.
Rubber bands and numbers and things like that. Whatever Misha uses to decide these things, rubber bands, they might. It's a good chance.
Good chance.
But the thing about it is that's going to not only affect Class 6, but 5, 4, 3, 2. I mean, you think about all those teams that are on that bubble. I mean, and you go back and look at last year in itself. There's probably 5 or 6 teams that are on that bubble of going up.
Yeah.
That may have a chance to defend their state title. but may move up a class, and now that changes everything.
Well, I mean, the big
Or
thing.
down.
Well, yeah, or down, because you've got a Howell team that you don't know. Now you've got a Cardinal Ritter team; they're automatically getting bumped. Ritter's going to go from 3 to 4. You got a St. Mary's team; they'll max out. They'll go from 4 to 5. So there's going to be the trickle down effect after they figure out all the championship points and the factor and all that for the private schools, and then they'd start figuring. I know. Start figuring all that stuff out. That's where it gets interesting. And like I said, Class 6. My gosh, and I said this last year, I would have loved to seen CBC and Howell play last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, you could see that this year. You could see a Howell CBC game if Howell gets bumped to 6. Because CBC is staying in 6. They are not moving any place.
Absolutely not. But I will tell you this. I personally, I think Howell's going up. I mean, it's just too many schools not to that are going to be up in Class 6. How can they not be bumped? But I have no bearing or say. I'm just speculating, as we all are at this point.
It's all the numbers.
But I don't see a scenario where they don't. I could be wrong, and I have been before many times. Coaching decisions and life decisions, whatever. But I'm telling you, I look for it, and I'll tell you what, Bill. Will that not make Class 6 even more fun?
But then you look at the Western, at the other side of the state. You got a Liberty North team, a Lee Summit North team.
Are they good?
Really? they're just a little good.
They're not bad.
You've got all the Lee Summit schools. You got Blue Springs South. Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, Class 6. If you can come out, I said last year about Class 5.
Yes.
You win Class 5. You're the best team in the state, hands down, no matter what.
Now, Jim, before you make this glaring declaration, let's let and see what the classes are when they come out, because I know it's going to come out of your mouth. You're going to say about Class 6 what you said about Class 5. Let's put a pause on that just in case.
Because you're looking out for me.
I am. Hey, Jim, that is my job here as producer of this show, is to look out for you.
To put the old ring, salt and pepper on foot. Insert foot. Chew slowly.
Yes. Bingo.
There it is.
And don't do it too slow.
But you know what? If and we'll preface it with if all those schools go up to Class 6, then you can go ahead and say it, Class 6.
Well,
you win Class 6.
Well, you've got Hazelwood Central, who was on the bubble last year.
Yeah.
You got Fox and Seckman, who are right in that lower part of 6. You got some of those teams that were high Class 5.
Right.
Once again, what moving parts? And once again, and I want to explain something. People ask and they kick and scream. They're like, why does Misha wait till the Friday of the first playable games to release districts? Schools have to have our master student list in by August 14th.
Right.
There's a lot of times we turn our stuff in, we make declarations in March. You're going to lose kids. You're going to pick up kids. Those numbers in March really don't help you. That's why we all have to do our numbers, our master student list, by August 14th. Okay. Then Misha can actually look at the numbers that you're going to see in the seats when school starts. That's why they have to wait. Now, the other sports, I don't understand why they wait. They pretty much got those numbers solidified.
I would say when it comes to basketball, and especially girls basketball, the reason why you have to wait is because sometimes in those smaller schools,
you don't have enough
they
to
don't
play.
have enough to play. They'll come out, they're going to have a team. Girls are say they're going to, and I use this because girls basketball is very prevalent with this. They say they're going to have kids, they're going to have a team, and then by the time the season rolls around or right a couple of weeks in, they don't have enough because kids quit, they don't have numbers, and so they don't want to make the enrollment numbers now that everything's, you fill in those gaps. Used to, it was just here's the number. But now you don't want to have that gap and say that, well, somebody could have been down a class, up a class, whatever, because there was one less program. That's why they do it in other sports.
Well, no, and the same thing in football. I mean, you get some teams that by unfortunately, by mid-season are going to have to drop out. Or they start practices on August 7th, and they drop down to 20 kids. Yeah, we're not going to have enough to play. So, and that's the other part and I'm okay with it. Like I said, I know people kick and scream about it. I kind of like it because that makes just more excitement for day one. Right. You're getting up at 7 o'clock or in my case on Friday 5:30 to go work out. And then as soon as I get in the car, my phone will be blowing up with with everything. But
That's me. I'm sorry I texted that early.
Yeah, it's you. That's him a lot. But I mean, it's neat because that helps lead into the openers.
I agree,
and that that adds a little pep in the step to the kids, and it kind of says, okay, here we go. We got to start week 1, and we got to get out of the gate fast, especially some of those schools that are on the bubble that may move up or may move down.
right? And speaking of that, Jim, I mean, they've already had 2 schools over on the other side of the river.
Well, Sparta
canceled, and Vienna. Those 2 schools canceled their entire football season after 1 week of practice, and they just didn't have enough kids. So you saw a bunch of schools scrambling to try to find somebody to fill that hole for that week that they were playing those teams. And so, that goes to show you right there that changes some things. That's one of the reasons why I think the way the process and the way districts go shouldn't be decided early in the year. When I think we talked about this, it should be maybe decided after week 8, or hey, we're going to align the districts after week 8 so that we can see, who has. Let's just say this. Let's say who has teams or who maybe folds after week 4 because they got injuries. I mean, they got kids that are out. I mean, you never know. So I just think that's maybe even more of a thing to think about down the road.
Yeah, without a doubt. And the other piece of it too, is that schools have to make big decisions. And,
Yes.
I feel bad. My heart goes out to Sparta and Vienna and those kids. But, the one thing I'm going to say, and I said this and I'm going to go ahead and say it, I'm going to be big time. Martin Kilcoyne, had me on his.
Do you want me to zoom in when we do
No,
this?
we don't have to zoom in.
Right.
No.
Won't do
No. But we were talking about the numbers in football, especially on the football side, going down. And I've been saying this for the last couple of years, and I strongly believe this. We're going to see 8-man football on this side of the state sooner than later. It's going to happen because the co-ops are going to run out. You're going to have to make some decisions. If you only got 20 kids, you could play 8-man. That's what a lot of those schools out in the northwest corner of the state do. They've got 20, 21 kids.
Right.
And I tell you what, I love 8-man football. 8-man football is a blast to watch.
Fun.
It's
Yeah,
fun.
because-
The kids have a blast with it. But I'm telling you, if the numbers in football keep declining, we're going to see it more on this side of the state than we ever have. I mean, there's been 1 or 2 schools, maybe down South Central, that did 8-man, but most of them are up in the northwest corner.
Right.
I'm telling you, we are going to see that here in the metro area sooner than later.
Absolutely.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure. And, at the end of the day, it'll be interesting to see how many teams, like you said, go to that 8-man because of numbers. And it's across the board and in a lot of sports anymore. I mean, but footballs, you're seeing it even more and more, I think that's going to be a lot of the understanding of it. So,
no doubt about it. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into some games, talk a little bit about what's going on this weekend, and, kind of throw our 2 cents in about some of the other things that are going to be happening. So when we come back, we'll jump into some more stuff. You are watching the On the Move with the Caravan High School Sports Preview Show right here on Off the Rails Media.
I'm the latest hashtag challenge, and everyone on social media is trying me. I'm trending so hard that hashtag common sense can't keep up.
This is gonna get tens and tens of views. But if you don't have the right auto insurance coverage, you could be left to pay for this yourself.
Mayhem is everywhere. Are you in good hands?
All right, everybody, welcome back to On the Move with the Caravan Sports Preview Show with Jim Powers. I'm Chris Miller. Obviously, I'm not Jim Powers. But guess what?
Thank God.
I know, right? I just can't live up. It's hard enough with his shadow next to me to live next to his shadow currently. And I just can't do it. But yeah, go. You have a comment to that one, Jim?
I got nothing.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I got nothing.
But, I tell you, we've got a lot of really great matchups around the area. I mean, they might get put back
there have already been a bunch that have been pushed.
There have been pushed back because of Mother Nature doesn't like us all right now. It's either the sun in Super Mario 3 trying to kill us, or who didn't pay the preacher enough. One of the two.
Can I go get my wet bulb meter real quiquely? We got to check that out.
No,
if we don't need it, step outside. It's gonna go nuts.
It's a little warm out there, but I did look at some of the matchups, and man, I'll tell you what, it's like throughout the St. Louis metro area, it's so hard to come up with some really good games because they're all. I mean, there's a lot of really good ones. So narrowing it down, it must have been a really tough chore for you.
Oh, it was. But here's the thing. I love this problem. And I love that finally the coaches and the ADs have stepped up. And they're realizing that you just can't play, cupcakes, or you can't have easy first or second week games anymore. You've got to step up, and you've got to get your kids ready. If you want them to make a long run in the district and in the state playoffs, you got to get out of the gate fast. And it doesn't matter if you lose a week one game. There have been many teams that have lost week one that have won a state championship.
Yeah.
So I love the scheduling philosophy that everybody's been going with. And, once again, I started looking at games and my head was spinning because there's just so many good ones. I mean, this is what we have. My gosh, we don't have Marquette Lafayette on the schedule. We don't have some of these other big games. I mean, you've got one of the biggest games in both states up at Illinois State between East St. Louis and Mount Carmel,
which
is just going to be a knockdown.
I saw that. I really thought you didn't. Why would you put that on the list?
I mean, my God, it's just ridiculous. The great games that week one's coming up with.
And you always look at it in this sense, too, because in week one, maybe you really don't know who might be, you know what they got coming back typically, but some of these teams may have something that you maybe not have even seen or heard about, and all of a sudden in week one you get that first matchup and you go, whoa, this team's pretty good, And I also do think that on the flip side of that, you may have a team that maybe not on this week because of a matchup they get ready to have next week that you want to really highlight. It's a big game or an opportunity to highlight some quality teams that are going at it.
No doubt about it.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about some of these matchups that we have coming up that you've highlighted. So our first matchup, it features Herculaneum making the trip up I-55 to take on Windsor. The Black Cats are coming off of a 6-5 season that ended against University City in the Class 3 district semifinals. The Owls are coming off their own up-and-down season, finishing 4-6 and losing a close game to Gateway in the Class 4 district quarters. Jim, what can you tell us about this matchup?
Well, we're not going to talk to Jason Jarvis because I could already imagine what Jason's going to say about the Black Cats. I mean, here's the thing. Both teams lost a lot last year. I mean, when we look at it, you had two teams that had some great kids. And it's going to be interesting to see who bounces back.
Yeah.
Who's going to have those kids to fill some big holes. I mean, you look at Herky, you're filling a hole at running back. You're filling a hole at quarterback. You're filling a hole at one of your slots.
Yep.
That's big. That's going to be a tough thing to kind of overcome. Windsor, they lost a little bit more on the defensive side of the ball. Right. But I like how these two teams trended last year. Got some nice wins. They really kind of turned the corner a little bit, especially Windsor, in what they were doing. You got to remember, Windsor, a couple years ago, just wasn't a really good football program. And I think they're turning the corner, and you're starting to see that a little bit. 4-6 last year was a win for them. That was just a big season for them to kind of start to get the train moving in the right direction a little bit. So I think this is going to be a really good opener. They've moved this game to an 8 o'clock start already tomorrow night. So it'll be interesting to see, once again, how everybody's going to come out in week one. Because a lot of teams haven't been able to do a whole lot. You either won at 6 a.m., you won at 7 p.m., or you got stuck in the gym. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how everybody's kind of maneuvering through all this stuff.
Especially after, your jamboree opportunity, you got to see it, and then all of a sudden you come back to, after, throwing through some plays on offense and defense at the jamboree, and then you run into this heat wave, and so maybe you don't get a chance to do the things that you want to with pads on and go through some things that you saw. Maybe we need to work a little bit harder on this. This week one's going to be interesting as far as how this week has projected on up to Friday afternoon.
Well, the other thing is there, you might be stuck in the gym, maybe, but hey, you better know you should know your playbook.
Oh, yeah.
When it's
without a
all
doubt.
said and done, now you've had some time, and I'm sure there's been some film that's gone over and some different things that the coaches have talked about that, hey, we need to be able to do this, and if you're not prepared at this point, that's on the kid. I hate saying it's on the kid. But it could be on the coaches, but it's probably on the kid.
But I will say this: the winner of this game going to kind of jumpstart a little bit into Jefferson County, in the I-55, and that's what you want to get. You want to get some good, momentum going, because I'm telling you guys, and I said this last year, and I'll say it again: football in Jefferson County is underrated. We saw some great stuff last year.
Yes, we did.
And I expect a lot more this year. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be terrific. And if you can get a win, if either Herky or Windsor can get a win, that's going to kind of start the momentum going, because you're not going to have an easy out week in or week out. When you're talking about Pius, you're talking about Festus, you got Hillsboro, DeSoto. It's going to be a dogfight every Friday night in the I-55.
I would agree.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of one of those teams that did really well last year, our next matchup has Sykeston taking the long trip north to take on Hillsboro. The Bulldogs last year struggled, finishing 1-9 on the season. The Hawks of Hillsboro, however, had a much different-looking season, finishing 10-2, capturing a district championship and losing to eventual Class 4 state champion St. Mary's. Jim, when you look at this on paper, it looks a little lopsided, but what do you see in this one?
Well, you know what, a Sykeston team, they're normally good. Okay, let's just call it what it is. They normally have great football. Mm-hmm. I think last year was an anomaly. They ran out a bunch of young kids and struggled. Now this year, those young kids have had a year under their belt. They're going to come out and they're going to be a lot better. Now, Hillsboro, and once again, you got to look at this Hillsboro team. Who'd you lose off of that team? Austin Romaine.
Yeah. He was pretty good.
He was pretty good. Who else did you lose? You lost 2 of your linemen.
Yes.
Who else did you lose? You lost a major part of your linebacking core.
Yes.
A lot of rebuilding there. But you got to remember, there's a lot of kids that got big snaps last year, especially when you talk about that Ritter game, which a lot of people will still go down and say that Hillsboro should have won that game. Mm-hmm. And Hillsboro had the Class 3 state champs on the ropes all night long until the final 3 minutes.
Yes.
This is a really, really good program. They've done some great things. I really like the direction they're going to go. The young kids are going to have to keep the tradition going and keep building upon the last couple seasons.
I'm going to go ahead and be a homer a little bit.
Of course you are.
I think one of the biggest things they did lose, though, was one of their coaches, who's now the head coach at St. Pius, and Frank Ray. And
yeah.
I'll tell you, in just a little bit of time, and obviously you don't get to see it as much because haven't been able to see it as much outside because of the heat and all the other stuff. You can tell why that defense played with such intensity for the Hawks last year. Mm-hmm. And I've had a couple people who had kids that graduated last year saying, This is a big move for your program. So I'm going to be interested to see how that looks now coming back. And I'm sure you have kids that are there ready to play. They're going to be amped up. They've been coached up. The coaches, I'm sure that they have to replace Coach Ray have done a really good job, because there's a lot of tradition now here, and there's a lot of talent that's still out there at Hillsboro. And this could be a good step for them in the right direction starting off the season.
I think they made a big statement last year. They started to make the statement 2 years ago. I think they made a big statement last year. Now, I'm telling you, you know, Coach Ray, that's a big loss.
Absolutely.
But you know, depending upon who's going to call the defense, who's going to be the DC this year, guess what? They may keep, if it's somebody on staff, they're going to keep a lot of that different schemes. They may tweak a little bit, make maybe some coverage packages, you know, some blitz packages. But if it's in-house, they're going to keep a lot of the stuff that the kids know, and that's the big piece of it. So I'm really excited to see Hillsboro. I think, once again, they're going to make some big noise this year. I can't wait for the North County game later on this season. That's going to be
what I want to say.
That is going to be another. And they had a knockdown drag-out last year. They're going to have another one this year because those two teams are just so doggone evenly matched.
Yes, absolutely. I would agree with that. And, you know, you also take into the county at what Festus has too.
Yeah.
Last year they had a 2-quarterback system, and so it'd be interesting to see how that plays into effect with Hillsboro, because they have one of those guys back, and so and I just really feel like that that whole Jefferson County Conference in that area is just going to be a fun night of football every Friday night. Because I think it's going to be just a fun night to watch football.
The I-55 in the Mississippi Valley, night in, night out. You better be ready to strap it up and go.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. And our next matchup, we have the Junior Bills taking a trip down South Kings Highway Boulevard to take on the Dragons of St. Mary's. SLU High is coming off of a tough season where they finished 3-7, losing to Seckman in a shootout, 41-50 in the Class 6 district quarters. St. Mary's, now St. Mary's Southside, took a 12-2 record and finished last season with their second consecutive state championship, even after moving into Class 4. So they won Class 3, and then they won Class 4. So, Jim, let's hear how this is shaping up.
Last year was a great game. This year will be a very good one as well. You got the Junior Billiken team, and I was so glad they took the interim tag off of Adam Cruz. I thought the job he did, the record may not show it, but the job that he did getting thrown into the interim head coaching position at the end of May, and now you've got a month and a half to put your stamp on this team, to get yourself solidified, to get coaches, make sure everybody's going to stay. Then you got to make sure the kids are going to buy in, and they did. Plus, it doesn't hurt when you've got one of the top guys in the Midwest in Ryan Wingo. That kid is unbelievable.
Hey, can that kid play?
He can play a little bit.
Oh, okay.
He can play a little bit.
I've heard.
And they've got a really, really nice quarterback. Defensively, they're going to be really good. I mean, this SLU High team is a lot of people are talking very highly of them, and they should.
Right.
And I really think they're going to make a little bit of noise in the Metro Catholic Conference this year. I'm really excited to watch that game. And then St. Mary's, once again, a lot of things happen. You got a new coach, and Brian Simmons that's coming in. You've got some kids that were part of the state championship team last year. You're moving up to Class 5. You've got if you're going to go, you're going to win back-to-back state championships. Your kids know what the expectations are. You're going to be a lot of young kids that are going to be thrown into the fire pretty quick for the Dragons. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, and that game actually has been moved to Saturday now at 7 o'clock because of the heat. But Brian Simmons, veteran coach, really does a nice job. St. Mary's is going to have kids, and they're going to be ready to go, and it'll be a great atmosphere. I'm going to lean on SLU High just a little bit on the victory, just because I think the depth is going to, you're talking about a St. Mary's school that technically should be a Class 3 school. Well, let's just call it what it is. But when you win back-to-back state championships, you're going to be bumped up to 5.
Stupid championship factor.
Yeah, it's that stupid championship factor again. But I get it. It's even in the playing field, but SLU, I think, is just going to be a little bit deeper than St. Mary's. But I'm going to tell you right now, St. Mary's is going to win games this year, and they're going to do it convincingly because they've got a lot of those veteran kids back.
Yeah.
That will be a fun matchup, that's for sure. And it'll be interesting to see how St. Mary's responds. I mean, some of that, with them possibly closing, and then did some of those kids go and leave, go somewhere else?
Yep.
I mean, you really don't know right now. I know you can see the roster, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle that and a new coach. I mean, even though he's got some experience, it'll be interesting to see how they handle a change in coaching and how that responds and reacts on the field.
No doubt about it.
All right, so our next matchup, we have the Francis Howell Vikings are going to take. Excuse me, let me start that over.
Yeah,
the
please.
Francis Howell Vikings host the Fort Zumwalt North Panthers this week. The Vikings finished with a perfect 14-0 record last season, en route to the Class 5 state championship, as we discussed earlier. The Panthers come into the game looking for revenge from last year's matchup in the district championship after finishing their season 7-5. Jim, what do you see in this one?
Joe Bacon and the boys better be ready to go. I mean, in all honesty. I mean, and Joe, we talk about what Zumwalt North has been all about over the last bunch of years. And Joe Bacon has built a program. Hal has built a program. We saw it last year. They won the Class 5 championship. They've got two of the biggest pieces of the puzzle from last year back this year. Adam Shipley was the All-State quarterback last year. He can do it both on the ground. He can do it with the arm. We saw that in the championship game. Mm-hmm. You've got a kid by the name of Jude Jones that's going to go to Mizzou. Now, here's the thing about Shipley. He's a baseball player. He's already verbal to play baseball right up the street here at St. Louis University. But the kid is one heck of a quarterback.
So you mean he's a two-sport athlete?
He's a two-sport athlete.
Can you do both?
Multiple sports. Once again, I say that.
It has
multi-sport
been done before.
athletes can do it. You don't have to specialize. But Jude Jones is going to Mizzou. He's already verbaled. And this kid is a tremendous athlete, and he can do it both on the edge. And, in fact, talking to Brent Chinacki, they're actually going to move him down to the tight end position because they lost their all-state tight end to Brent Norfleet, who, by the way, is going to Mizzou.
Oh,
And,
M-I-Z.
you know, they're bumping Jones down into, to the line, the block. And Brent Chinacki, he was ecstatic with how the young man has responded and learned the playbook and really dove into it. So, how, depending upon where they go, Class 5, if they stay in 5, they should make it back because they've got a really, they're deep all over the place. I love how Zumwalt North, I think Joe's got some kids coming back, especially his especially guys, his quarterback, his receivers. The big thing for them is going to be the defensive line. And that's where Joe, really, they hang their hat on as their defense a little bit. That record last year, a little bit deceiving, but I'm telling you, I really like this team, and I think they're going to make a lot of noise when push comes to shove.
Yeah, I think the big question is do they stay or do they go?
Yeah.
Is you 5 or you 6?
We'll find out Friday morning at 7 a.m.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of coaches glued. Hey, will the Misha site crash?
It will.
Oh.
It will.
Wait, you saying that they won't be ready?
It doesn't matter if they're ready. It's going to crash. You hit
refresh.
Better have that good internet.
Exactly.
All right, our next matchup, it features Seckman hosting Valley Catholic. The Jaguars are coming off of a magical 9-2 season that ended in the Class 6 district semifinals against Marquette. One of the 2 losses last season was to the Warriors of Valley. Valley rolled to a 10-1 record before losing a matchup to Class 3 state quarterfinalist Park Hill Central in the district championship after beating them before. Now, Jim, this is, personally, I've watched Valley Catholic for years, and we saw what happened in last year's shootout.
Yep.
What do we think on this one?
Yep. Pretty much. We're going to see the same thing. Here's the thing. This game last year, now what everybody has to remember, Seckman was a big lead in that game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here come the Warriors.
Yeah.
In the third quarter and the fourth quarter, and they were able to pull off the victory. This is going to be a great game. Seckman, I'm really curious to see. Once again, you lose a dude like Cole Rubel, who
he can play too.
In my mind, and I'm in the last decade, he's one of the best athletes, and I'm not just saying running back because they put him all over the place. He was the best athlete on the football field that we've seen in an awfully long time.
Oh,
very good.
You go back and look at all the games they played last year. Man, that kid could just flat out do it from the quarterback's position. You think you have him tackled and he breaks loose and for 50 yards and he can make a play happen like that. And then, to me that's sign of a quality quarterback and it'll be interesting to see how they respond to losing him and all these high powered offenses that they had last year scoring games. It'd be interesting to see if that's what they do or if they maybe play a little bit more defense, a better defense, and have that, their defense, I think, is much improved from last year, too, because they got some big boys on that line.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out for them.
The big thing with Seckman is now, okay, you've got this guy that you ran in the Wildcat. You did all sorts of things just to get the ball in his hands. So you got your coaching staff. Okay, what are we going to have to do to change things up? Who's going to be that next man up, so to say?
Next man up, yeah.
They've got a great offensive line. They've got a great defensive line. who's going to be that guy that's going to toe the rock for them. And then Valley's Valley. Let's just put it that way. They are good every year.
Are they?
You know, Park Hill Central, Park Hill Central avenged the loss earlier in the year in a game that was just an unbelievable game.
That was a really good game
In the regular season. I love how you're just chiming in, you know, because you just do.
Well, I'm sorry.
what he does.
Jim, I told you it's hard. It's hard because of the shadow that you cast.
Oh my gosh!
I'm just trying to add some value.
Value. Great value.
Sorry. Go ahead. I apologize. I got you off topic here.
But no, I mean, you know, Valley, they just do what they do, and that's a program. We talked about what Joe Bacon's done with Zumwalt North, and what Valley does. They run the same thing, year in, year out. Maybe a couple tweaks here, maybe a little move here, but that's a program. Those kids have the playbook when they're in 6th grade, and it's just plug and play basically. And that's why they're so doggone successful. I really think they can make another deep run. And once again, the big game on the year is scheduled for them. You're going to have Park Hill Central again.
Yes.
You're probably going to be in the same district, so you're going to have that matchup again. So you got to learn from that last year. Figure some stuff out, but they've got a lot of veteran kids back. And I guarantee you that game's been circled since last year when they lost in that district final.
Well, you know, and Coach Nager does a great job down there just to get those kids to buy into what he's doing at such an early age. Like, I mean, those kids are just like animals. I mean, and they just are just unreal to watch. And it's just so smooth. Everything they do on the field is so smooth. You can tell that those kids that just really buy into everything he's saying, and they just make it happen. And this matchup, I think, really is going to set the tail for both teams this year, and say, hey, you know what? We either, you know, Valley's going to say, hey, we're back and we're ready to roll, or, you know, Seckman's going to say, hey, just because we lost that All-State quarterback doesn't mean that we're not going to be very good. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out.
No doubt.
Oh, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we're on our final matchup, and that features the DeSmet Spartans as they travel to Kirkwood to take on the Pioneers. Despite a 4-5 record over the regular season, the Spartans managed to make it to the Class 6 state semifinals before losing to state runner-up Lee Summit North. Kirkwood finished their season with a strong 7-4 record before losing to eventual Class 6 state champion, who we mentioned before, CBC. They're okay in the district semifinals. Jim, this is the final matchup we're going to discuss. And you've said it. It's going to be a good one, so let's hear about it.
Yeah, this game's an 8 o'clock start now on Friday night. Two teams that offensively are really good. You know, Jeremy Macklin's got some great kids coming back. Quarterback from last year, he's coming back. He's got a freshman that's nipping at his heels a little bit here in the preseason, and both of them got a lot of reps in the Jamboree last week. And it'll be interesting to see what J-Mac comes out with, if he runs a two-commit quarterback system with those two, or if he gives the senior the opportunity first and lets it fly. They got great speed on the outside. They plugged and played a couple receivers that graduated from last year with a couple juniors. Offensive line is big and nasty and physical. You know, the only question I have is, you know, the secondary. They're going to see a lot of teams that are going to chuck the ball around, and we're going to see that with DeSmet tomorrow night. Duff at quarterback does a really, really nice job. They've got a couple big boys up front that do a terrific job, especially blocking his blind side. You're not going to get a lot of touches on the quarterback, you know, trying to come on the opposite edge. Defensively, DeSmet's secondary is really good. The back end of that D is solid, you know, and it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how these two teams kind of chess match each other, because John Merritt, Jeremy Macklin, you know, both friends. They know each other very well. They know each other's coaching styles. So it's going to be really interesting to see which one kind of can get after each other. But this is just going to be a knockdown drag-out tomorrow night at Kirkwood. And once again, when in a million years did you ever think you'd see a DeSmet-Kirkwood matchup week one?
Right? Well, I'll tell you. Yeah. And you know, going back, and I remember us talking last season on about DeSmet, and just, I mean, the record doesn't show. They played such a tough schedule. It was one of the toughest ones that I think that I've seen in a while. Everybody they played, there were no easy games. It wasn't they get off the bus, all you have to do is make sure your shoes are on right. You have to have them tied, and you're going to win the game. No. they're playing some legit teams, and this being their first matchup week 1 only shows their commitment to the schedule.
Well, you got to remember one thing too. Kirkwood last year, they were 1-3.
Yeah.
You know, the combined score of those 3 losses, 8 points.
Whoa.
They only trailed a total in those 3 games, only trailed a total of 5 minutes and 42 seconds. The one thing that Jeremy Macklin told me last year, we have to learn how to finish.
Yeah.
And they did that. Once I think the message got sent after that, and they did that until obviously they run into the buzzsaw called CBC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
And they're okay.
But the big piece is this team now knows how to win, and they know how to close out games.
Right.
And they got a lot of those young kids that got a lot of valuable snaps last year. This is going to be a great one. I'm going to be really, because I think if the Smet wins, you know, we're going to see some epic battles in the MCC this year. If Kirkwood can win, they've got some big games. They're going to have to play Eureka. They've got Marquette on their schedule. They've got Lafayette on their schedule. That conference in the Suburban is going to be an absolute meat grinder this year. Mm-hmm. And if you can win that thing, you got a chance to go pretty far in whatever classification you're going to be placed in.
Absolutely. And, you know, Jeremy Macklin knows a little football.
He's pretty doggone good.
Yeah. Where do you go to school?
MIZ.
ZOU.
There you go, boys.
Also played in the league.
Played in the league.
I would love for some kid to tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about.
What about, you know, you got J-Mac, you got Justin Cage that's now coaching over at CBC. He's coaching the receivers now at CBC. I mean, and the coaching staffs, look at just these guys that are coming back and giving back to the high school kids. I love it. I love it. You know, seeing that out of these guys. It's been fun to watch, and, you know, I've had a chance to talk to Jeremy a bunch of times, and, you know, the biggest thing about him is it's about the kids. He doesn't want to talk about him. He doesn't want to talk about, you know, what he did in the past. He wants to talk about his kids, and that's great. And knowing Justin, I'm sure that's the same thing, and it's just great to see those types of dudes coming back. You know, Kerry Davis, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's the head coach up at Hazelwood Central.
Love that.
Giving back to the kids, and it's awesome that our kids are able to learn from really good dudes like that.
I would totally agree, and I think it's the most important thing here is they want to give these kids the same experience that they got to do, and not only at the collegiate level or the pro level, but at the high school level. You know, and I think that to me is a very important thing to these kids to understand is, hey, you can play at that high level at the high school scene, and I think that's what's great to see those guys putting in that time and effort for these kids.
Okay, so we've talked about the big games this week. Let's go down. Okay, we've talked about the teams. We've talked about SLU High. We've talked about how. Let's talk a little bit about who we think will be there. And I think, Riley, we'll start with you. I think the two teams that you obviously got to talk about, CBC, and you got to talk about Cardinal Ritter. Cardinal Ritter moving up to 4, CBC staying in 6.
I think it'd be interesting to see how Cardinal Ritter, you know, moving up, how that affects, you know, and then looking at their schedule and saying, hey, we're not going to just let up and say, hey, you know, well, guess what, we're going to 4. They're going to play a high-level schedule. And so, you know, I think it'll be really a good test for them early, too, as well, just because if those kids maybe lose some close games early, how do they respond?
Right.
Because that schedule's pretty brutal of theirs, you know. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond and looking at, you know, Friday, who all is in their district. Will take a lot of consideration as that as well. So, you know, CBC's just
they're CBC
unreal. I mean, you know, you go back and look at last year and you just analyze that whole group. They were just flat out good. And it's just fun to watch. I mean, those guys were flying around on the defense, and you know, offensively, I mean, they had so many weapons. So, I think they're going to have definitely something pretty powerful coming back. So, those two teams will, you know, I think are going to, you know, be shocked in it a little bit where they're at in the middle of the year.
Rockwood Summit for me is a team that once again, you know, Eric Stewart, the job he's done. He's got that program going in the right direction. We've seen that the last couple years. And once again, I think they're a team you got to watch. They lost some kids from last year, but they've got some young kids that are going to be good, and they bought into the program. So I think Summit is a team that you're going to have to keep your eye on. And Lutheran North. Kyle Wagner, the job that Kyle's done is terrific. Now, I question his scheduling philosophy because he's got the toughest schedule in the state of Missouri. He played 3 state champions last year. He's playing 3 state champions this year.
Hey,
Nothing like throwing your kids into the fire.
Guess what? That's what makes them better.
That's what's going to make them better. And Kyle is done a phenomenal job. And I'm telling you, last year they lost a couple of those games. I'll be interested to see how they do this year in matching up with the Blair Oaks of the world, matching up against Hal and kind of getting after it a little bit, and Cardinal Ritter as well. So, I think keep an eye on Hal North. I think they've got some great pieces to the puzzle, some veteran guys on the offensive side. Defensively, they're going to be really, really good. So,
sleepers that I look around and I think about Eureka and somebody says that, hey, I think they may be a sleeper in this whole mix to come back at beginning of this season and say, hey, we're for real. Because I really do look at their schedule and I think, man, they got a chance to maybe make some noise in that conference and I think maybe have a chance to win it. That guy does a great job there. And
Sumner's phenomenal. He's terrific.
So you look at them and then I know we talked about it earlier in the show, but it'll be interesting to see what Frank Ray does down at St. Pius.
I was just going to say that to Chris. You're
just
down there.
because I'm a hometown guy here.
Yeah, no, I really do think that St. Pius may be something to look at come maybe week 5 or 6, and you're looking at it, and they have a possibility of having a pretty solid record in week 5 or 6, and so that'll be another team. And it'll be an interesting, a good buddy of ours. Coach Miller and I, Mike Genge, over at Oakville, he turned around, program around a little bit last year.
Getting him going in the right direction.
And I'll be interested to see how he responds and reacts this year with his Oakville Tigers. So that's that was my kind of overlooking around the region, and those 3 teams just kind of caught my eye a little bit.
Go ahead, ask whatever you want to ask.
No. I think Coach Ray was a terrific get for Pius, and I think he's going to bring a lot. And last year, there were some games that you guys were right there, and I think with him on the sideline directing traffic now, I really like what Pius is going to bring to the table this year.
Well, it's the way that he's already got some of these guys playing with intensity.
Yeah.
Listen, you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't apply it, then you're wasting your talent. And I feel like Coach Ray is the kind of guy who can get a lot of talent out of any kid. He seems to have that way about him. I'll probably have to listen to some of the stuff that he says just because I like listening to guys who can motivate people.
Yes.
And the kids seem to really like him and want to play hard for him, and that's half the battle anyway in itself. And then it's just getting them out there and making them, help try to get them to execute. I don't want to say that we're going to be world beaters or whatever, but I'm very curious to see how well we do with our schedule. I think we have some winnable games. I think we have some tough games. St. Vincent is the defending conference champ.
Yep.
It's still a tough game to play against St. Vincent no matter what.
St. Vincent,
it's
not going there. Not going there with the officiating down. Never mind.
So
did I say that?
Hey, listen, you just had to be ready. You had to be ready for the laundry game.
Yeah.
And because hey, those uniforms, they get dirty.
Yeah, they do.
They get laundry. So
and the other thing too, watch out for R7.
Oh yeah.
Last year a little bit down.
Yeah.
But that was a young team last year.
Very young.
They are going to have some kids that are going to be ready to roll this year. So, don't take your thumb off of the pulse for R7 because I think you're going to. I'm telling you, the I-55 in the Mississippi Valley is just going to be a knockdown, drag out, week in, week out. Crystal City. Look at the year that Crystal had last year, and they got a lot of those kids coming back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. Football in Jefferson County has exploded. We said this about St. Charles County a few years back. Now we go south. We go down 55. Jefferson County football is tremendous.
Yes.
Go down across the Merrimack and watch them. Unlike Zach McVey, who will not come across the Merrimack up to here to hang out. Oh, did I say that? Sorry, Zach.
He doesn't watch.
He doesn't watch this.
No, he's watching Criminal Minds.
No, jeez.
But I agree with you. I think we're going to have some really good matchups. I think we're going to have some some good games to preview. And this has been This has been a very good.
It's been fun.
Yeah, first time. Hey, our first live show for your show here anywhere. So, hey. Nothing broke so far. So
you almost turned all the lights off a few.
That was earlier.
That was earlier. But no, thanks to Rachel and Jeff and Aaron, letting us hang out here at the 09 once again on Hampton. You want to come up, and if you're in the South City area, stop on by. They do a terrific job. They're big, spot promoters and sponsors of us, and we appreciate everything they do for us, not only with the Caravan, but also with Off the Rails. And actually, I'm shocked that this show did not go off the rails tonight.
It almost did.
It almost did.
It has.
You didn't allow it to, Jim.
Oh well, that's
Jim likes to direct traffic. We have people in the crowd here who wanted
Langhauser's thumbs down on us. We just got the thumbs down.
We have a lot of people here who wanted to see some off the rails action, but Jim wants us to behave.
He pulled the reins in a little bit.
Coach's box.
Slow it
tonight,
down.
Later on tonight, you'll be able to see probably a full house.
Yeah, because we'll all be virtual.
It's
too hot to get outside.
It is. Gosh. Hold on, let me get the wet bulb. I think our wet bulb reading is 81 before we go outside. So
such an AD.
Oh my
goodness! I didn't call you something else. Go ahead, send us out of here, Jim.
Guys, it's been awesome. Chris Miller, Riley Blair, thanks so much, and we'll be doing this every week now. Coming out on Thursdays. Chris, what time on Thursdays will we have this out about?
Whenever you tell me, Jim.
No, this part of it's your world. Since you're the owner of Off the Rails.
Man, look at you putting me on the spot here. 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, there it is. So every Thursday, 3 o'clock, we'll be talking about big matchups. We'll get into some of the other sports as well, talk a little bit about them, give them the due love because, once again, we talk about volleyball down in Jeffco, highest terrific year last year. R7 wins the state championship. It's going to be tremendous in all the sports. So we'll be touching on a lot of that stuff as well. But guys, thanks so much. Appreciate y'all coming up.
All right. Well, hey, it's been another episode of On the Move with the Caravan. We'll see you guys next week.
This episode of On the Move with the Caravan is brought to you by Off the Rails Media. Life's more fun when you're off the rails.
Are you tired of boring sports talk shows? Then tune in to the Coach's Box. These guys don't just talk sports. They talk about whatever the heck they want to talk about. Watch new episodes of the Coach's Box each week for free on Facebook, YouTube, or the Streamline Sports app.